This concept is excitable tissues, which include nerves and muscular tissues. We also need to know the type of cells in each type of tissues and their functions and their characteristics. Both nerve tissue and the muscular tissues have excitability. What does that mean? That means they have ability to respond to stimuli by changing membrane potential. The membrane potential means when the cells are rested, there's a voltage difference across the cell membrane. The inside of cells are normally are negatively charged. Outside the cell in the extracellular matrix, they are normally positively charged. So the voltage difference across the cell membrane is called the membrane potential. So when these type of tissues are being excited, being stimulated, cells in those type of tissue will change their voltage difference across the cell membrane. So that voltage change will send the electrical signal. That electrical signal will make the cells start to be excited. The electrical signals in the nerve cells will be transmitted to other neurons. The electrical signal produced in the muscle cell will make the muscle contract. First, let's talk about the nerve tissue. Nerve tissues are specialized cells for communication. In other words, the nerve tissue has a function of communication. The communication have two ways. One is electrical communication, one is a chemical communication. So the nerve tissues can send out two types of signals, electrical signal and the chemical signal. The structure of nerve tissues are made by two types of cells. One type of cell is called a neuron. Neuron is a cell perform the communication function. Here's the picture of the neuron. He has the neurosoma, which is a cell body. This is a nucleus. Here, all these branches are dendrites. Dendrites are structures to receive the stimulus. Then there's a long tail called axon. Axon can be long, very, very long. So the axon normally conduct the signal to other neurons. Another type of cells are neuroglia. Neuroglia supporting the neurons, maintain the health of the neurons. So he work like a nutritionist, janitor, or healthcare provider. So he does not conduct chemical or electrical signal, but neuroglia is trying to support neuron to be healthy. We already talked about the structure of neuron, and they have cell body, dendrites, and axon. The muscular tissues are elongated cells specialized for contraction when they receive the stimulus. We have three types of muscular tissues: skeletal tissue, cardiac tissue, and the smooth muscular tissues. So the purpose of skeletal muscle is for movement. That movement is voluntary, which means the movement of the muscle are controlled by our central nervous system. The skeletal muscle is striated, so he has alternating dark and light bands. Each band represents a contractile unit called a sarcomere, which we're going to talk about that in the later chapters. As you can see, the skeletal muscle cell is really, really long. This is one cell. He has multiple nucleus. He has multiple striations. They attach on the bone, okay? They are for movement. The cardiac tissue looks different than skeletal muscular tissues. Cardiac muscular tissues are branched. They are relatively short. They do not have multiple nucleus per cell. They only have one nucleus per cell. Then between the cells, there's a structure connect the two muscular cardiac cells together. So this is called an intercalated disc. So that intercalated disc will send the signals from one cell to the other, so the cardiac muscular cells can contract together. There is also striation along each cell. So they are also, which means they also have the contractile unit in the cardiac muscular tissue. However, the movement of muscular tissue is involuntary, which means the contraction of our heart is on all the time. The third type of tissue of muscle is called smooth muscle. Smooth muscle does not have any striation. Each cell is randomly distributed. They can have a big range of contraction or being stretched. The movement of smooth muscle is involuntary, and the smooth muscle makes our internal organs like stomach, digestive organs, and urinary organs. So many organs are made by smooth muscles. And each muscle also has only one nucleus. So you can summarize those three types of muscle in a table format. The skeletal muscle is striated. Skeletal muscle has multiple nucleus. The movement of skeletal muscle is voluntary. However, the cardiac muscle is striated, only have one nucleus per cell, but the movement is involuntary. The smooth muscle also has one nucleus per cell, also is involuntary movement, but there is no striation. Another concept we need to mention during this chapter are basic introduction of cell junctions, glands, and membranes. We learned cell junctions before in basic biology concept courses. There are different types of cell junctions. Cell junctions are connections between two cells. So some connections is just anchor the cell together, like tight junction, desmosome, and hemidesmosome. So those are using protein locks or protein threads to just sew the cells or connect the cells together. There's no internal exchange of materials between two cells. However, there's one type of cell junction called a gap junction. That type of the cell junction allow the intracellular materials to flow from one cell to the other. So this is a structure of gap junction. It's like building a channel between two cells. Another concept we need to introduce to students is glands. So glands are cell or organ that secrete substances for use elsewhere in the body or releases them for elimination from the body. The gland can be a cell or can be an entire organ. The purpose of having gland is for secretion, to produce useful stuff, chemicals to the body, such as hormones. Another function of some glands is for excretion. Okay, excretion is to release the waste product, like sweat gland. When we classify glands, we use different criteria. The first criteria we use is to see if the gland has a duct. If the gland has a duct, they maintain their contact with the surface of epithelium by a way of a duct. This type of gland is called exocrine gland. On the other side, there is a type of glands they do not have ducts. Those are called endocrine gland. Those type of glands will secrete hormones. Then those hormones are directly diffused or transported into blood. There are some unicellular glands, like we mentioned in the epithelial tissue concept, called goblet cells. Okay, there are some goblet cells, they just secrete mucus. So those type of cells are unicellular gland. It doesn't have a duct, okay, it doesn't go to the bloodstream, they just go to a local area. So here's a picture of endocrine gland. So those gland is closely attached to the blood vessel, so the hormones or other chemicals they secreted can be directly diffused into the blood vessel, then circulate through the body. This is the picture of the exocrine gland. It has duct. Okay, the duct will go to the surface of the body to excrete the waste. Exocrine gland has different types of duct. Okay, this picture shows you the shape of the duct. Some shape is tubular, it's very simple. Some has multiple half circles. This is the acina. Some are tubular combined with acina. This will be the tubular acina. exocrine gland. So this just show you, within the exocrine gland, they can have varieties. Another criteria to differentiate different type of glands is by types of secretion the gland produce. So some glands just produce the water-based secretion like the sweat gland. Some glands produce the mucus-based secretion, such as goblet cells. They will produce mucus. And some are mixed glands like pancreas. Okay, he can secrete both serous and the mucus cell types and produce a mixture of two types of secretions. Some organs, okay, they can release the whole cell, like ovary, testes. They can release the sperm or egg cells. So those type of glands are called cytogenic glands. Cyto means cell, genic means produce. The third criteria to differentiate different type of glands are by modes of secretion. So some product being released from gland is through exocytosis. So that type of glands are called myocrine glands. Some glands, they release the secretion by droplet. This will be called apocrine gland, like the mammary gland in the female body. And some glands are called holocrine gland. So this means the whole secretion are pushed to the surface of the body, like the oil on our scalp. If we don't wash our hair for a while, then there will be a scald and something come out, on your skin, come out from the hair. So those type of secretion is called a holocrine gland. So these slides here are showing you all these examples one by one. Another concept we need to introduce you in these chapters are called membranes. Membranes are not cell membrane. Those membranes means a structure. That structure, just like a saran wrap we use in the kitchen to wrap up stuff. So we have membranes located on the outside of organs or align the body cavities. There are three types of membranes we need to know. The first type of membrane is called the cutaneous membrane, which is our skin. Skin is the largest membrane in the body. They are made by stratified squamous cells. We already talked about it. And that squamous epithelial cells are sit on top of areola connective tissues. Okay, so the combination of epithelium and connective tissue, it will form our skin layers. The second type of membrane is called the mucous membrane. So mucus means, in this type of membrane it has mucus. So this type of membrane lines along the passages that opens to the external environment. For example, GI tract. Okay, so that membrane is made by epithelial cell, columnar cell, because we mentioned in the small intestine, there are many epithelial columnar cells and also embedded with goblet cells. So those are the epithelial tissue. This is the basement membrane of the epithelial tissue. Then the basement membrane will connect the epithelial tissue with connective tissue. So then there is a connective tissue layer underneath this epithelial tissue. So in addition to that, there is also a muscular layer of tissues. Okay, there's a muscular tissues. So this is how GI tract, like for example, the intestine are made of. So this whole structure is called a mucous membrane. So the lines passages that open to the external environment. The third type of membrane wrap around organs. This type of membrane is called the serous membrane. They are internal membrane. They are simple squamous epithelial resting on layer of areola tissue. So they are thin. Okay, so those type of membranes will wrap around a lot of organs like a heart, lung. This membrane will produce serous fluid that arises from blood. So make sure the organs being wrapped or have moisturizer in there.